Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Journey with Vijaykumar Shrivastav. Today I am going to present the topic Glossary of Agronomic Terminology, series 5th, in which we will cover the alphabets from S to Z. Before presentation, little introduction about myself. I am Vijaykumar Shrivastav. I have done M.Sc Agriculture with specialization in Agronomy from Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, and presently working in seed industry as a seed professional and associated with one of the M.Sc. So let's move to the presentation. Salinization, the process of accumulation of soluble salts in soil at or when air is saturated at given air temperature, which is represented on millibar, MB or mm of Hg. A process by which the salt content of the soil is increased. It typically is attributed to irrigation practices and often makes land useless for crop production. Saturate, to fill all of the openings among soil particles with liquid is called saturate. Saturated air, moist air in a state of equilibrium with a plane surface of pure water or ice at the same temperature and pressure. In such a state, the relative humidity is 100% and the amount of water vapor is maximum for the given temperature. Saturation deficit, this is also called vapor pressure deficit. The difference between the actual vapor pressure and the saturation vapor pressure at the existing temperature. Seepage or inflow. The sideward or lateral water movement is termed as seepage or inflow. This will occur both vertically and horizontally. The capillary rise is the reason for seepage in surface layer. Practically, it is impossible to separate the water movement as percolation and seepage, but for our study purpose, the seepage and percolation can be separated and calculated through some methods. Selective herbicide and pesticides, a chemical compound that kills only certain species of plants or plant pathogens, broad or narrow spectrum depending on the compound. Semipermeable membrane, a membrane that permits the diffusion of the one component of a solution but not the other. In biology, a septum which permits the diffusion of water but not the solute. Sensible heat. It is the heat that can be measured by a thermometer and thus sensed by humans, normally measured in Celsius, Fahrenheit and Kelvin. Sheet erosion, the gradual uniform removal by water of the earth's surface without the formation of hills or gullies. Silage, prepared by chopping green forage grasses, legumes, field corn, etc. into an airtight chamber where it is compressed to exclude air and undergoes an acid fermentation that retards spoilage. It contains about 65% moisture. 3 lbs of silage is equal to 1 lb of hay nutritionally. Silvopasture, a farm system that combines tree with pasture for livestock. Both the trees and the livestock provide income for the farmer. Single cross hybrid, the first generation hybrid between two inbred lines. Short wave radiation, a term used loosely to distinguish solar and diffuse sky radiation from long wave radiation. Sleet, it refers to precipitation in the form of a mixture of rain and snow. It consists of small pellets of transparent ice 5 mm or less in diameter. It refers to a frozen rain that forms when rain falling to the earth passing through a layer of cold air and freezes. This happens when temperature is very low. It is not commonly seen in India except high ranges, that too in winter in extreme north and northeast India. Snow, it is precipitation of white and opaque grains of ice. In winter, when temperature is below freezing in the whole atmosphere, the ice crystals falling from the altostratus doesn't melt and reach the ground as snow. Heaviest snowfall is reported to occur when the temperature of air from which snow is falling is not much below 0 degrees centigrade. Because under such a condition, the moisture content is fairly high. Sodium absorption ratio, SAR, a ratio for soil extracts and irrigation waters used to express the relative activity of sodium ions in exchange reactions with soil. Soil, the natural medium for the growth of land plants on the surface of the earth composed of organic and mineral materials. Soil bulk density, the ratio of dry soil mass to a known soil volume including pore spaces, usually given in gram cubic centimeter using undisturbed oven dried soil obtained from a core sample with a known volume. Swell porosity, It refers to the amount of pores or open space between soil particles. Pores are created by the contact between soil particles. Soil temperature. In many cases, soil temperature is more important to plant life than air temperature. It influences the germination of seeds and root activities. It influences the soil-borne diseases like seedling blight, root rot, etc. The decomposition of organic matter will be higher in higher soil temperature with necessary moisture. It controls the nutrient availability. In tropics, high temperature of soil causes regeneration of potato tubers. It also affects nutrition in legumes. Soil texture, characterization of soil in respect of its particle size and distribution. Soil water holding capacity, the amount of water that is held in a soil after gravitational water loss has ceased. Soil water stress, sum of soil water tension and osmotic pressure to which water must be subjected to be in equilibrium with soil water, also called soil water potential, atmosphere or bar. Soil water tension, force at which water is held by the soil or negative pressure or suction that must be applied to bring the water in a porous cup into a static equilibrium with the water in the soil. Soil water tension does not include osmotic pressure. Soil erosion, the process by which productive topsoil is eroded by wind or water action, also called metric potential, atmosphere or bar. Soil fertility, the ability of the soil to provide the proper compounds in the proper amounts and in the proper balance for the growth of specified plants under the suitable environment. Soil productivity, the capability of a soil for producing a specified plant or sequence of plant under a specified system of management. Swell horizon, a layer of soil material approximately parallel to the land surface which differs from adjacent genetically related layer in color, structure, texture or consistency. It also differs in biological and chemical characteristics. Soil map, a map designed to show the distribution of soil types or other soil mapping units in relation to the prominent physical and cultural features of the earth's surface. Soil moisture tensiometer, an instrument which measures the tension with which water is held by soil. The instrument can be used for estimating when to irrigate land and for detecting drainage problems. Soil reaction, the degree of acidity or alkalinity of a soil, usually expressed in terms of pH value. Soil series, a grouping of soil which have developed from a particular kind of parent material and which are similar in all characteristics except texture of the surface layer. The soil series is one of the principal units of soil classification. Soil structure refers to bonding together of soil particles and the resulting configuration of solid and voids. Soil survey, the systematic examination, description, classification and mapping of soil in an area. Soil texture refers to the coarseness or fineness of a soil. It is determined by the relative proportion of various sized particles like sand, silt and clay in a soil. Soil type, a finger subdivision of soil series. It includes all soils of a series which are similar in all characteristics including texture of the surface layer. Soil radiation, the flux of radiant energy from the sun is solar radiation. Heavenly bodies emit short wave radiation and near surfaces including earth emit long wave radiation. A specific heat, the heat capacity of a system per unit mass. A specific humidity, the ratio of the mass of water vapor in a volume of moist air to the total mass of the volume of moist air. Strip cropping, growing crops in long narrow strips across a slope approximately on a line of contour, alternating dense growing intertilled crops. This is sometimes done with crops grown under government acreage allotment in order to increase yields per acre. Since the intertilled area is not included in the allotment, it is also done in some dry land areas to conserve moisture and reduce the hazards of wind erosion. A storm, a marked atmospheric disturbance characterized by a strong wind, usually accompanied by rain, snow, sleet, rain that freezes as it falls, mixture of rain with snow or hail, or often thunder and lightning. Stubble, the vessel portion of the stem of plants left standing after cutting. Subsoiling, breaking of compact subsoils without inverting them. This is done with a special narrow cultivator shovel or chisel, which is pulled through the soil at a depth from 12 to 24 inches and at a spacing from 2 to 5 feet. Summer fallow, land plowed up usually in spring and left unseeded through the summer. This is done to let the land air out and rest until fall, when it is worked up and planted to a crop of grain. May also be done to break down organic matter or kill weeds. Susceptible, easily affected or harmed by something like a pathogen, is called susceptible. Sustainable, producing crops and livestock in a way that protects the land, air and water. Sustainable agriculture, agriculture practices that ensure long-term productivity with few harmful effects. Symbiotic, a beneficial relationship between organisms that live together. Symbiotic nitrogen fixation, the conservation of nitrogen from the atmospheric to inorganic nitrogen by microorganisms that live in nodules on the roots of soybean plants and legume crops. Symbiotic indicates that both the rhizobium bacteria in the nodules and the host plant receive mutual benefit from the relationship. Tassel, the staminate inflorescence of maize composed of panicled spikes. The Tonga system, this is like an organized and scientifically managed shifting cultivation. The word is reported to have originated in Myanmar, Burma, and Triang means hilly. A means cultivation means this is a hilly cultivation. Temperature, it is defined as the measures of the average speed of atoms and molecules. Tensiometer, a device for measuring the tension of soil water in the soil, consisting of a porous permeable ceramic cup connected through a tube to a manometer or vacuum gauge. Tillage, the use of mechanized means to loosen soil and improve growing condition for crops. Tilth, the physical condition of the soil with respect to its fitness for the planting or growth of a crop. Top dressing, lime, fertilizer or manure applied after the seed bed is ready or after the plants are up. Topography, surface feature of the land including mountains, hills, creeks, etc. Topping, topping in tobacco is the removal of the terminal bud with or without some of the small top leaves just before or after the appearance of the flower head. Topsoil, the layer of soil used for cultivation, which usually contain more organic matter than underlying materials. Tornadoes, defined as a violently rotating column of air attended by a funnel-shaped or tubular cloud extending downward from the base of cumulonimbus cloud. Tornadoes are the most violent storms of lower troposphere. They are very small in size and of short duration. They mostly occur during spring and early summer. They have been reported at widely scattered locations in the mid-latitude and tropics. Crop losses are heavy due to this event. Traditional agriculture, farming based on practices such as crop rotation, use of animal manures instead of chemical fertilizers, and use of animal power. Trait, characteristic of an individual plant or animal, such as the color of a flower or the shape of a leaf. Genetic traits can be inherited by the individual offspring. Transpiration, the process by which water in plants is transferred as water vapor to the atmosphere. Turbulence, a state of fluid flow in which instantaneous velocities exhibits irregular and apparently random fluctuations. Typhoon, any violent tropical cyclone originating in the western Pacific, especially in the South China Sea. Unisexual, flower containing either stamens or pistils, but not both. Vapor pressure, the partial pressure of water vapor in the atmosphere. Variety, a group of individuals within a species that differs from the rest of the species. Vertical farming, the practice of producing crops in vertically stacked layer. Viscosity, It is defined as the property of liquid which oppose the relative motion among its parts. It is nothing but internal friction that makes resistance to flow of liquid. Viticulture, the science and practice of wine growing, grape growing, is called viticulture. Waterlogged, land full of water, often soil that is too wet for farmers to plant crops or work in their fields. Water potential, the capability of soil water to do work compared with free water. The water potential at the surface of free water is taken as 0. Water requirement, also referred as water need, it is defined as the water needed for raising a crop in a given period. It includes consumptive use and other economically unavoidable losses, and that applied for special operations such as land preparation, transplanting, leaching, etc. It is usually expressed as depth of water for a given time. Water rights, this is also called as riparian rights. The rights of a person owning lands containing or bordering on a water course or other body of water in or to its bank, bed or waters. Watershed, the area of land from which water drains into a river or other body of water. Watershed is an area above a given point on a stream that contributes water to the flow at that point. Catchment basins or drainage basins are synonymous with it. Water table, the upper limit of the part of the soil or underlying rock material that is wholly saturated with water. In some places, an upper or first water table may be separated from a lower one by a dry zone. Windbreak, a strip of trees or shrubs serving to reduce the force of wind, any protective shelter from the wind. Weather, the day-to-day conditions of the atmosphere at a particular place that include temperature, moisture, wind, atmosphere and pressure, etc. Weed, a plant that is in its location is more harmful than beneficial. Wetlands, an area of land where the soil is saturated with water, such as a marsh, swamp or bog. Wet year, if the rainfall exceeds twice the normal deviation at a particular place, that year is said to be a wet year. Wind vane, an instrument used to indicate wind direction is called wind vane. Wind speed, a speed of air movement at 2 pm above ground surface in unobstructed surroundings, means in meter per section over the period considered, or total wind run is kilometer per day. Yield, to produce harvestable crop for consumption or the amount of a crop harvested for use. Jebo, Jebo is an indigenous farming system practiced in northeastern hill regions, particularly in Nagaland. This system refers to combination of forest, agriculture, livestock and fisheries with well-founded soil and water conservation base. Zero plane displacement, an empirically determined constant introduced into the logarithmic velocity profile to extend its applicability to very rough surface or to take into account the displacement of a profile above a dense crop. So this was all about glossary of agronomic terminology from alphabets S to Z. Now my presentation ends here. Thank you very much for your kind attention. See you again shortly. I have given here my YouTube channel details, Journey with VIJAYKUMAR SHRIVASTAV. Having request, please visit the channel, subscribe it and provide your kind and valuable feedback for further improvements. Thank you.